And then obviously how much we're, the opportunities for getting breached. Now, if we take one of the areas, and let's just take healthcare for a second, worst states for healthcare, number of patient records tripled in 2019, the amount of healthcare organizations that have experienced breaches. I mean, it is unfortunately a mess out there at the moment. And I'm not picking on healthcare, but to some degree I am, because unfortunately healthcare, more than anything else, does hold the lives to our digital world. And if you think about it, and especially if we take a look at where we are going on this one, and we take a look at where healthcare and augmented technology and where the healthcare, especially in the US and in Europe, is going, we are having to start looking after people that are getting older and older. I'm one of those. I'm hitting 50 this year. And so the healthcare system is going to look at me and go, okay, how do we actually keep you running for a little longer? And it's not going to be traditional medicine. So, we have to take a look at it. And, it is the current state of the union, to be perfectly honest and blunt enough. It isn't pretty, and we have a lot to do. Again, part of the reason that something like Bridges in Tech is freaking awesome is because it's bringing diverse thoughts. It's bringing a different set of opinions, a different set of eyes to the problems. We just have to beat some of the other people over the head and start to get them to listen. Now, why? Why are we failing? What's going on and why are we screwed up? And it isn't just because it's the old white guys in charge. There's a few other reasons as well. Cast your minds back to your childhood. When you were kids, the parent or guardian of your, when you were younger and you were a kid, you were running around the kitchen, parent or guardian probably said to you, don't touch that because it's hot. Or don't do it, don't get anywhere, you will scald yourself. What did we all bloody do as kids? We touched the damn thing. We ended up with a burnt finger or a burnt hand, or worse in some cases. Fast forward to our teenage years, and we all thought doing things like this were fantastic ideas, right up to the point that the damn thing ended up in a tree and you end up flying for 25 years into the hedgerow or whatever else it might be. Fast forward to our adult years, and this is where we are. Somebody's always going to click on it. I've just spent the last couple of days, actually, let me put the light on in here so you guys can actually see my ugly mug as well. There we go. Is that a little bit better? All right. So, unfortunately, we all do it, and you're not going to stop it. I think this is one of those big challenges. I'll be the first to admit, I've got stickers floating around here that say, don't click shit. That isn't going to happen. We are users. We meant to click things. We send stuff out for people to click on, for crying out loud. So it's that whole click responsibly. The challenge is, at the end of the day, it's a human. So now we look at the human, and this is where we unfortunately are sitting with our human education standpoint. We unfortunately have to put signs like this on enclosures for large, heavy animals to tell people not to go in and either pet the stupid things or charge down Pokemons. Not pretty, not good, but at least it gives us a bit of a baseline. For those of you that are sci-fi fanatics and like that side of it, 7 of 9 obviously has a really, really good saying for us, which is we lack harmony, cohesion, and greatness. It'll be our undoing. Again, part of the challenge that we see is as we start bringing more and more technology in, as we do more and more with technology, we're throwing it at people, but we're not thinking about how we actually educate the human. We're not here to click the chat or not to click them exactly. We don't think about how we train people, how we teach people. We still put more and more technology in their hands, yet we don't help them. Perfect example, we talk about hacking the human, and we could have gone off on the tangent about we give people, these devices, the phone, one of the most dangerous things on the planet these days. There's a picture of me floating around somewhere on the internet where, in one hand I have this little beastie and in the other hand I have one of these things. And the question is a very simple one. Which is more dangerous? And arguably, this day and age, this thing is. We can have that discussion. So we hand people these devices and we expect them to be able to use them without any training. And we don't think about the consequences of those actions. Now, let's take a step back and we go to hacking the human. Let's talk about how we extend life. Let's talk about some of the research that's being done. Let's talk about some of the work, some of the stuff I'm working on at the moment about extending life. And, we'll start off with the obvious one, which is like, this is going to get a little scary. It's fun at the same time. What we're talking about is human augmentation. And there are a number,
Okay, I think I have to go.
Uh-oh, am I okay? We talk about a number of different things, human augmentation, where we talk about blurring the lines, obviously, between biology and technology. And let's take a look at where we are from an extensive standpoint on these things. So on the left-hand side of this is kind of where we are from a normal and a standard standpoint at the moment. Everything from embedded technology in the augmentation of the ears and the head, temperature sensors on the stitching side of things, hydration, complex systems, and blood oxygenation. We'll go into this a little bit more. Take another step forward onto the right-hand side. We talk about, brain stimulation, implants, gastric stimulation, which is already in place, obviously pacemakers and defibrillators. All of this is technology-based that we're basically putting in or looking to put into the human. And then we take a look at the screen on the bottom, which is basically, we have wearable energy devices. Oh, yes, we do. And we start taking a look at the prosthetic side of things. We start taking a look at the angioplast and all the ECG and the EEG recording capabilities that we're building into the human side of technology. Then we go, okay, well, this is really, really cool, but how are we integrating it? And we start taking a look at how the body is now working with the various different pieces of the technology. And a lot of it's coming down, again, to these devices that we have. So a perfect example, and we'll talk about it in a little bit, are the gastric tablets that you can now take, which will actually communicate with a patch that's on your arm that then communicates with the telephone, which then obviously does telemedicine back to wherever it's going to be. We have the same thing with insulin pumps that are embedded insulin pumps that are talking Bluetooth or BLE out to EEG sensors and various other things. I think we talk about it in a minute, some other architectures. But we always look at, IoT as the phones and the things that we have and the cameras around the house and our IoT fridge and all of the devices that we're building in. We're not thinking about IoT as something that's going to end up in the body. And, we all know the problems and the challenges we have with, the IoT cameras and the baby cams and all the other stuff. And it's that same issues and same challenges that we're now building into the body. So yes, IO-T. Now, this is fun. If we want to hack the body, now this is hacking the body from the outside. The hacking the body from the outside still relies, as you can see on here, all the different types of wireless signals. So for those of you that are looking to come into this industry or change in this industry or do something in this industry, you start looking at the future of medicine and telemedicine and the future of where a network is going. These are some really interesting ones. Body area networks are something that's been worked on fairly extensively. In other words, how do I actually get the body to communicate between these various different systems themselves? There's actually some Ethernet over power that we're using inside the blood vessels and the streams to actually move signals across our own bodies. Some fun stuff. And again, great and wonderful, but unfortunately, it's a lot of it has still got some issues. We're using Bluetooth in the same way we use Bluetooth on these. If I can hack your Bluetooth here, be damn sure I can hack it on your body at the same time. Now, the convenience, some amazing conveniences. And this is where we have to look at society. I saw an amazing post on LinkedIn today where somebody was, or last night / today, where somebody was talking about the fact that we're looking at putting Alexa into cars, which I just giggled. I curled up and I giggled because I'm waiting for somebody to pull up next to me in their fancy sports car. And I'm just going to yell at the Alexa in the car and say, Alexa, go into reverse, and just see what happens, or put the handbrake on, or all those kinds of wonderful things. We get sold a bill of goods by our industry and obviously by the electronics industry in general that we do these things for convenience. As it says, security, bill pay. If I have, and I've had embedded things before, an embedded RFID chip, I can walk up and don't have to use my phone for bill pay. I can walk up and put my hand on the device and go, hey, I'm bill paying this way. Body monitoring conditions, they're already there. Communications, operations, and security, as you come in and out of, no, it's actually fun. The security. So there are a couple of companies, I've seen some reports online where companies are now embedding chips into their employees for monitoring what they're doing, for monitoring them in and out of doors, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So there's some really, really interesting stuff all about that one. Actually, yeah, Black Hat Insider Threat. So actually, slight confession on that Black Hat one. I worked for the particular agency that had to look after the person. that actually had to deal with that particular situation a number of years ago, where we suddenly realized a vice president was running around with a device that anybody could hack. It was quite fun. Well, we could probably do that with the current Womble in place. Anyway, all that to be said, we as society get sold a bill of goods. We get told that these are amazing, they're convenient, and they're all sorts of great things. But unfortunately, we don't necessarily take that step back and go, what are the consequences of those actions? Obviously, one of them is the ability to do surveillance, is the ability to say, hey, I know where that body is. I know what's going on with it. I know what's happening with it. You can see the NSA put out a report yesterday, day before, you know, only what, 10, 12 years after we started having mobile phones, they put a report out going, hey, mobile phones can be tracked. We probably don't want that to happen quite so much to all of our military and government personnel. Take a step back and realize that we're putting more and more technology into our bodies and around our bodies. And now how do we actually, and where do we take surveillance from there, let alone all the facial stuff? If I can pull biometric data, or if I can pull intelligence about what you're doing and your health and your system. Somebody's not on mute, by the way. So we take it another step further, and it gets really ugly. Now we can actually start looking at the ability to monitor and manipulate signals inside the body. Now I can start to look at genetic code that's running in the megahertz frequency range and go, how can I affect you directly? How close do I have to be? As that question now gets asked. Yeah, potentially I have to be close, but not really. Here's where it gets even more interesting. We look at what's around us. We look at the technology that we've already built in. We already have, to some degree, smart homes. We have cameras. We have networks inside our houses which look after monitors, surveillance systems. I'm not going to ask any of you to put up your hand and go, how many of you have got an Alexa at home or a Google at home or, you know, the Siri at home or any of those other things, but we have those. Now you go, where do they connect to? What are they connecting to? How is the smart home itself maybe connecting to the smart city, or maybe it's connecting to the car? You know, we've been hacking cars now for the best part of 10 to 12 years. That hasn't changed. Cars have put more stuff in, we can still hack the darn things. So if I need to get you as the human, I don't necessarily have to come into your house with my laptop and my antenna and go, I'm just going to stand next to you and hack you. I'm going to come in via other devices, and I'll get you that way. So it gets better. This is a fun one. I love these ones. These are great. I had a number of them sitting on the lab over there. Pill cams. These are brilliant. FDA approved them in 2001. By 2008, pill cams were actually, as you can say, 2 million procedures had used them. And it's a pill. It's just a regular size pill. I should have dug out some of the old ones. It's a regular size pill. And what it does is it actually has a camera in it, and it has the camera that communicates with a patch that you also wear. And by the way, it monitors onto the phone. So I can now get into your phone, or I can get into your pill cam, and I can monitor at the same time as you. But if you notice, the one below it is a dosage tracking pill. And the ability now to start looking at how is the dosage working, what's happening with the dosage. So this isn't, I'm not going to hack it to do anything nefarious to the actual piece itself. But if all of a sudden I adjust the dosage tracking, or I adjust the data that's sending, I put down the dosage, so now you increase it because you think you're getting less, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. General idea is, can I overdose you or underdose you? And at which point, you know, how do I kill you? Basically, it's as simple as that. For those of you that, you know, like to sit and vibrate all day, we have a vibrating capsule. So now we can hack the vibrating capsules. This is where it gets even more fun. So those nice systems that we actually have, almost every single one of those 2 million, user ID administrator, password administrator to get into the damn thing. So if you want to hack somebody's, you know, gastro or pill or dosage pill, that'll get you into the damn things. Worst case scenario, if you can't get into the tablet itself, but you actually want to get into the control system that most of the healthcare systems use to get into it, user ID rapid, no password. So this is worse than just a standard facepalm. We actually are going to go with the presidential facepalm at this point in time. Now, if that wasn't good enough, we actually have an even more fun one. We have MIT is actually coming out with actually a pretty awesome smart capsule. It will actually do full diagnostics and treatment monitoring, all sorts of Bluetooth connectivity, all sorts of customizations for medications, you name it. This thing's actually, to give them credit, it's actually really, really cool. It's amazing. It's a really, really, it gets worse. Oh, it gets worse than this. This is nothing. This is the fun stuff. We get crazy shit next. Sorry, Amara. This is really interesting. And it's, you know, again, this is charging down technology's route for the sake of technology, not necessarily thinking about it from the human standpoint. So we have all these fun things and we have all this good stuff. Now, MIT basically said the limited connection range is desirable security enhancement. As you can see, self-isolation, wireless signal strength, you know, physical space, yada, yada, yada. Dear MIT, this is obviously known as security by obscurity. If you have this device and it's in range, let's say you're sitting here and it's actually pulling all of the information it needs to pull in, the ability for me to get to this device, now I'm hacking you through your phone or through your other PDA device or through the computer you're uploading it from. You are an extension of that network. Simple as that. I just saw the question appear up in, apparently, so to Morgan's point, if I actually go back to that slide, if you look at it, there are two antennae that stick out and apparently it's meant to lodge in your stomach for about a month. And let's face it, if it disappears down the gastric tract, your phone will probably tell you either that or the stupid thing is going to vibrate on its way out. Who the hell knows? Prune juice. Yeah, no shit. How to hack you with prune juice. All right. So I still want the extended life. We haven't even started, by the way. So the stuff I'm going to show next is stuff I've been working on since 2015, 2016, and I've been fortunate to get dragged into a bunch of different places. We're going to start talking about nanotechnology and bio-nanotechnology. So nanotechnology, so take nanocarbon. So it's molecular carbon. Typically it's a gold molecule, but it's broken down into the carbon molecular. So it's a molecule. What we were able to do, or what a set of research labs were able to do back in 2016, as you can see on the screen, that's actually a basically microscopic level view of forming those nanocarbon tubes into letters, into alphabets, into patterns, into shape, all this other kind of good stuff. It's all done by signal inference. So if I apply a certain type of pulse, or I have a certain type of laser, or a certain type of signal to these nanocarbon tubes, they work in certain different ways. And you can program them, which we'll get into in a minute. So this was 2016. We were basically teaching them how to think. We were starting to look at basically just simple things, how to get them to move, how to get them into patterns and stuff like that. Fast forward to 2017, started to figure out how to get them to move. Again, the logic here is if I can put a nanocarbon architecture inside your body, I can have it move around your body. I can have it deliver medicines and drugs and all sorts of other things. But first, you've got to get the stupid thing to move. First that we did is basically you make your carbon nanotube, and then what you ended up doing is putting a set of carbon tails on the back of the thing, kind of like the stuff from the Matrix, the little swimmy things that move around. It's amazing how form follows, science follows, all sorts of other things. You can get them to move, as it says. Basically, MRIs were used fairly extensively in this one. The next thing we ended up figuring out from that one is getting them to actually understand how to do coding. So if you notice on that A plus B plus, you know, C and C and stuff like that, they're all different types of gate carbon nanotubes. So different types of ones have different types of functions. All this to be said, what we're trying to do is build more and more complex machines at a molecular level to do certain functions around the body. And we're almost there. So at the moment, microneedle is injected through a standard needle into the eye. So the ability now to actually get these things to go into the eye and do basically microscopic surgery at a molecular level. Blocked arteries, some amazing stuff on blocked arteries that can actually be done by iron oxide beads that literally go around and unblock the artery. I mean, it's like using Drano for the body. I wouldn't advise doing Drano. Our president said use the freaking chemicals. Don't do that either, please. As it says, you know, draw through the arteries. And then classical biopsies. So the whole concept are basically a polymer architecture that's nanotube constructed that will then expand and basically put more bioengineering stuff. Yeah, 2010. Yeah, there's some amazing research from Nina. Some of this shit's actually fantastic. It's kind of fun being as part of this stuff. So what we end up finding out, and this is the newer stuff that we've actually been working on, is we can use what's known as, we can actually code and we can encode these, and there's all sorts of engineering. So this is where science and, you know, biology and science and technology and chemistry and physics, to be honest, on this stuff, sits down and gets together with the coding folks. And then we get together and we start looking at, okay, how do we do this from an engineering standpoint? How do I actually get these ready things to talk? So in the best ways of XKCD, we're going to do a little bit of science. On the left-hand side of the screen is a piece of software called Cello. Cello uses something, as it says, Verilog, that something looks like a cross between BASIC and assembler. And the whole idea here is it's basic level gate engineering code. What you're trying to do is you look at the second layer, and then that third section on the right-hand side is you're building a set of codes that you can then turn into a signal wave. So just like we basically, hello, Amy's husband, just like we basically turn around and go, hey, I've made a computer program that moves a blob across the screen. Think about taking that code and turning it into a signal and then moving that signal. Basically think of it as a network, but instead of using a traditional network, we're using, in this case, a high frequency signal that we need to use to communicate with these things, because you can't exactly plug an RJ45 into a molecule. So we have to figure out different ways of doing this one. Now, this is where we got to with this one. This was actually done in a lab. It was actually fantastic, actually helping out. And to Nina's point, it's actually amazing doing some fun stuff on this one. Hello, hello, Nina's, hello, hang on, hello, Amy's husband. All right, so here's what we did. And this was all done in a lab, you know, more than just a Petri dish, but it's kind of cool. We ended up basically, as you see, on the right-hand side, we've got the little diagram. We have our keys, our receptor binding A's, aptamers, our transporting siRNA, basically bird flu. Bypassing tool, ribosines, image reporter, drugs, and disruptor. So we basically ended up building, the best way of putting this is a vaccine, and a vaccine that was actually very well programmed. Now, they did this in a massive, great big lab. Then they turned around to us and said, how would you hack this? What would you be able to do that would actually be able to hack this? And we ended up working with a bunch of folks up in Canada who were freaking amazing. What they figured out was this molecular communication capability. So we talked to them very, very extensively and said, can we use it, beg, steal, borrow it? Can we pay you money for it? And all this kind of good stuff. And we end up, as it says, an Arduino Uno, sensors, and a couple of other things. The logic here is, can we do molecular communications? And in our instance, the answer was obviously yes. This is about, as it says, about $100 worth of gear. We tested this with nanotubes that you can buy. You can go out and buy nanotubes on the open internet. We programmed the damn things how we wanted to program them. And then instead of putting them in the body, we used good old Febreze. And we actually dropped the nano stuff into Febreze. We misted the Febreze and we sent it from one side of the building to the other side of the building. And we picked it up using these sensors. And we were able to actually decode and recompile the program. It's actually kind of fun. So in English, what we ended up doing is they took bird flu, put it onto a whole bunch of multi-walled nanotubes, fooled the body. So you think about this in a network terminology, you bypass the firewall and the IDS and the IPS. The propulsion system to move it in the body was those carbon nanotubes with the crazy tails. The tracking and tracing methodology was, if you think about networking terminology, our ability to communicate back to a command and control center. In our case, it was that MQ sensor that we were using there. The decoys, we didn't have the best of decoys, but yes, you can deliver a vaccine that way. That's actually what they were trying to do. We'll talk about that. Yeah, as you can say, if we're nice to bottom, you can actually go after cancer cells, clean clean arteries, go after Alzheimer's, and a whole bunch of other things. It was actually fantastic, amazing work. And so great stuff. But, and for any of you that saw the poster we put out today, if I'm not feeling very nice, we actually recoded those particles. So that Verilog code that we ended up building, we re-encoded the particles that they had to go after, as it says, endothelial cells, which are the blood vessel linings. We also went after white blood cells to compromise the immune system. So that'll obviously screw up your liver. It screws up your ability to actually move blood around the system. We screwed up your entire immune system, and we did it obviously in a very careful environment. But we were able to recode their nice stuff to do what we wanted to do with about $100 worth of equipment. A lot of testing in the lab, a whole lot of thing. Now, Great, that's cool, that's in a lab. But if you think about where we're going with this, if you walk into the physician's office and, you know, like me, you've got cancerous stuff on the skin, and they go, hey, we can take care of that for you, and it's going to inject you with some nanocubes, kadunk. Great, simple, I don't actually have to go under the needle or any of that kind of stuff. Now I'm being tracked and monitored by this, it's telling me how it's going and everything's going nice. We talk about ransomware. We talk about the ability and where ransomware is going. And now we start going, okay, how many people have these? Well, we already know as of 2008, 2 million people had those little capsules in them. I know how many are out there now, and I know the frequency I need to do to change them. Now, I'm going to be nice. I'll be kind of cool on this one. I'm just going to charge you $100. That's it. But I'm going to keep charging you $100. Every couple of weeks, I'll come back and I'm like, hey, you feeling healthy? How about you pay me another $100 so that I don't re-encode these to go after your blood vessels and your blood linings? You're not getting rid of that stuff in your body for an extended period of time. It's not going away, and there's no way at the moment that you can stop me from doing what I'm doing. So, fun stuff. Hence, we get it wrong now, and this is, I think, the big difference in security. This is where we as an industry have to take a step back. This is when we as an industry really have to go, it's no longer about the computer. When we screw up, it isn't just a matter of building another server. This is when we're starting to impact humans. This is when we're starting to look at what and how humans are interacting with technology. This is how we start looking at everything that we're building into humans. And we have to go, we as an industry have to take a different stance. So, as it says, the curse of long life. Sorry, I'm reading some of these other things. COVID isn't something, COVID isn't something like this. Believe me, COVID is natural, unfortunately, and it fucking sucks. That's the nicest way I can put it. All right, so where are we so far? This is the stuff I am currently working on. I've kind of talked about this a little bit so far. That machine that's behind me, I'm actually building a full EEG system. What I'm actually doing with it is I'm trying to replace passwords by simply the bioarchitecture that we have as humans. There's all sorts of interesting, unique stuff that we have as humans. And so can we use that to be our password? Argument, yes. Where am I at the moment? When I walk into my lab space, if I have my other set of glasses on, it recognizes who I am. They've actually got EEG sensors on there, recognizes me, I recognize it, computer's open, everything's happy. It does the same thing for the phone and a couple of other devices around here. So our simple existence becomes our passport and our keys and our ability to actually understand who we are. There's some really, really cool stuff I'm building on this. But again, if we're going to hack this stuff, we have to be hacking the human. This is, 5, 10, 15 years time at this point. Somebody else isn't on mute and there's a lot of background. If they wouldn't mind muting, that would be hugely appreciated. Thank you very much. Next step on this one. So we're starting to digitize consciousness. I'm working my way through this one fairly extensively. I'll be honest, I'm having some fun with this because at some point in time, I would like to retire to a nice AS400 somewhere in New Zealand, and I'll be happy there. And so we have to look at where we go as humans. We have to look at, and for those of you that are a hell of a lot younger than me, probably half my age, this is the world that you are working into and coming into, which is we are starting to look at how we're breaking down the physical and the digital worlds and how much we're interacting in one or the other. COVID has obviously pushed us much more to the digital side of the world. And if we do that and we can start building in some kind of like augmentation and consciousness mushroom, then we start looking at really what are we as a human, which has all sorts of interesting conversations. Stuff I'm messing around with is obviously electrical impulses, turning us into electrical impulses, is sequencing and all sorts of other fun things. So there's some really cool stuff on societal change and, who goes digital, how goes digital, who has the power to determine the future. There's some really fun stuff. This is some realms of science, fact, and fiction, which is coming true and true and true as far as we go. So obviously, we have a lot to work out before we get there, because let's face it, we can't go that far forward when the most common password is 1234556, and the security of our user IDs and our body is ruled by admin. By the way, it's been one of those days that I have to drink iron brew, and if you have to ask what's in iron brew, use Google for the minute, and I'll tell everybody afterwards. So, how do we do this? How do we actually figure some of this shit out? Again, part of the reason for looking at Bridges in Tech and some of the other forums, there's a logical reason for this. We have to change how we do things. We have to talk about communication, cooperation, collaboration, coordination, all of these things. The challenge with security at the moment, especially inside enterprises, we're not all rowing in the same direction. We're always pointing fingers at each other. DevOps doesn't like ops and nobody likes the network team and the DBAs are all strange. That shit's got to stop. We've actually got to work more effectively together. Then we come to our own bloody industry. Our own industry has an amazing capability to rename all sorts of interesting stuff with weird shit ass acronyms that nobody outside of our industry has got a freaking clue what the hell we're on about. We name an attack tool after basically a god that likes chopping people up. Probably not the nicest thing to do to go into a company. We walk in and we talk about ponies and pineapples and all sorts of other crazy shit, and yet we don't help companies understand what this is. For me, my weapon of choice these days is to walk into any organization with coffee or tea and donuts. It's amazing how much more you can get done when you sit down, put your feet up on the table, offer them coffee and donuts, and we collaborate. What else do we need to do? If any of you are liking conversations and stuff in English, Randall Munroe does a really good book called Thing Explainer. I will plug Wiser for a second. It's the training company that I'm actually hanging out with on a part-time basis. We have started to build a compendium or a Wisenary, or basically a dictionary of geek terms into English. And spending a whole bunch of time doing that. We've got like 40 or 50 done. I got another couple of hundred on the table. The idea is you can look at the terms, you can change them out, and you can start to use English terms instead of geek terms. That way, everybody starts to understand us. And we need to understand things in, you know, how do we talk a language everybody else understands? Biggest one of the biggest ones, ask more questions. I used to be one of those advocates for trust and verify. I no longer am an advocate for trust and verify. I think I've got to the point where I want to verify, and maybe I'll think about trusting, but I'm going to continue to verify. Cynical old bastard at this point in time, but I think we need more and more people to be at that point. The simple fact of the matter is too many people take things at face value, and it sucks because I'd love to be able to do that. But as a society, we are getting our asses handed to us by people who are taking advantage. And the only way that we help educate the population is to help them ask a few more questions so that they can help protect themselves. Lots to be said on that one, obviously. This is another big one. We have to collaborate. DevSecOps is obviously one example of that, but there's obviously plenty more. And it really is to be one of those where we, the security folks, have to come to the rest of the industry with cap in hand and go, look, we've been the special snowflakes for 25 years. We've kind of been the arses as well to some degree. We're sorry. How do we do this differently? How can we work together? Mark Miller, Andy, and a bunch of the other guys who are doing DevSecOps. DevSecOps is about to do its 24-hour. It's like DevSecOps for, there's a 24-hour one. It's freaking free to be part of. Go and bloody do it, please. Anyway, that's my plea to that one. That's huge. The other big one, we got to share. We have to be more effective at sharing. Sharing intelligence, sharing information, sharing when and where we've screwed up, sharing how we've screwed up. And we need to do it quickly and effectively. This crew here, Joanna and the team have put together an amazing group of people, and all of you are fantastic. If I have a problem, I know I can come and ask a question, but conversely, if I realize that there's something wrong going on, I can at least alert each one of you, because now we have a conversation that's going. We can ignore the lawyers for a little bit, and maybe we can have a back channel conversation and go, hey, let's figure this shit out. This is the other one, and actually this is really to Amy's point. Amy did a freaking amazing call last week, and I loved it because, as it says, we have forgotten the people. Let's be perfectly honest. We have obviously ignored the process, otherwise we wouldn't be in the shit show we're in, and we have gone there and said, hey, technology is the savior to all. Guess what? It isn't. For 20 odd years, we've chased technology. It hasn't fixed it. It's actually made things worse. Let's actually take a step back and look at the people in the process, please. That is a plea from a hacker. This next one's for us. That's actually me with one of the wolf mutts. You guys have seen it. We, the industry, we have to unplug every now and again. For those of you coming into this industry, it's amazing. It's fantastic. It's like freaking squirrels on speed and acid with the extra bit of iron brew thrown in for good luck. There's more shit to break and more shit to fix than we know what to do with. But take a moment to unplug, please. I now refuse to do anything on Saturdays. That's my day off. On Saturdays, I won't pick up the phone. I won't do email. I won't do a freaking thing. I will not work. I don't care. Work and burn. Have at it. Enjoy yourselves. I'll see you on Sunday if there's anything left. Meal times. Put your fucking telephone away. Put it away. Spend time with the family and friends around you. Put it on the sideboard. Ignore the stupid thing. You get the idea. You get the answers. So there's more, but you get it. So some final thoughts, because I've been yakking away for 40 minutes on this one so far, and we've done like 60 odd slides. For those of you that thought I was actually going to have some fun with just telephones and tell you how bad social media was and how terrible it is and how easy it is to hack you, it is. It's simple. It's all pretty nasty, and there's no easy solution to it, to be perfectly honest. It's hard to guard your privacy more effectively. But that, as I hopefully have shown you, is nothing more than the tip of the iceberg. And quite honestly, the phones and social media is nothing more than a stepping stone to get to you, the human. And at the moment, you, the human, is simply just a matter of taking money from you. You, the human, in the next 5 to 10 years, it is going to be you, the human, that I ransomware. So start thinking about how we deal with that. Next one. I like this one. Here is the logic for this slide. The logic for this slide is simple. We are really good at blaming everybody else around us. I was dealing with it the other day. Company got breached and like, ah, shit, we got breached. It's because of this, or it's because of this, or it's this, or somebody didn't. No, fuck it. Look in the mirror. You're the one that failed. Own it, admit it, and then deal with it effectively. Don't blame North Korea. Don't blame China. Don't blame anybody else. Look at yourself and go, we allowed this situation to happen. How do we fix it? Let's own this and let's change it. So big one for all of that one. All right. I've had this in my slides for a long time. I like it. We have all come at this from different ships. I mean, I came at this from starting in this industry when I was probably 10, 11, getting arrested at 14 and 15, jumping out of airplanes after that for a while, and then back into this industry. Some of you are coming into this industry from all sorts of different directions, and I love it. We need more of it, but we're all in this together. We have to be in this together, because if we're not, I'm sure as hell ain't going to fix it. All right, so a thank you, obviously, to Joanna for letting me rabbit on for the last 40 minutes or so, and for everybody that hung out and everybody listened and all that kind of wonderful stuff. I am going to stop sharing my screen and shut the hell up for a minute and say thank you very, 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 very much for everybody listening. There you go. That is it in a nutshell. Hacking humans.
Wow. I don't know if I feel safer or worse.
Wow. That's all I'm saying.
Was amazing.
Chris, I have to give you props. I mean,
was that fun?
The whole idea of human hacking, and then I'm like thinking, what's in my body? You know.
If something happens, I'm just going to choose to die instead of getting one of those, because I think that's going to kill me faster.
Oh, it's
some new show on Netflix that talks about they're taking people's poo and checking and seeing what's in your body.
Wow.
So when you go to like the hospital, not even when you go to the hospital, like from the waters everywhere, it's just a lot of crazy stuff. So
yeah.
And yet we still can't come up with a birth control pill for people with sperm. We still can't do that. Like, women are the ones who are taking birth control. I still don't get that part. Like, how is it that we how? Why?
I have a suggestion. We get a birth control for men that uses nanotechnology.
They actually tried to test the men's birth control, and they were too emotional, so they couldn't handle it. So it's a real thing. Like I was like, yes, men birth control, but they said they were too emotional. So
you guys, vasectomies are reversible. This isn't that deep.
They can deal with it.
All right. Thank you so much, Chris, for that.
No, that was fun. Hopefully
presentation.
everybody enjoyed it.
Can I
Thanks,
ask-
Chris.
Can I ask a quick question?
Totally.
So here's the thing, because you're definitely unique in your point of view and thinking, but I've been thinking for a while, just because of jobs I've had, how everything is sort of human focused. But as I sit in conferences, a lot of times I see a lot of techies from 20 years ago that are still thinking it's the network, it's computers, it's not a people issue. And I'm just wondering how many people think like you, and how many are thinking human-centered design and problem solving?
Not enough. That's probably the simple answer. I know there are definitely some that are, no two ways about it. And I know that some are, but I think you hit the nail. I don't think, not enough. Yeah, I wish it was more. And I don't know why. I don't know if, because, I look at it, I'm like, shit, I've been stood on stage. This year, even though we're not at DEF CON, this year at DEF CON would be my 19th or 20th year of doing DEF CON.
Wow.
And for all those times,